Hey everybody, Gina Mizell here alongside Danny Moran. It is almost time for Oregon State's trip to number 13 Utah to face the Utes, a team that a lot of these coaches are familiar with, and a very, very good team even coming off of that loss to Utah last week. And this is kind of an interesting spot for Oregon State. They come off of a game where it was probably the most winnable on paper game in their schedule. They lose 17-13 to Colorado, and now they have to go on the road to face possibly their toughest challenge of the entire season. So how do you see this one ultimately?
No, I'd agree with that. I think going to Utah at Rice Eccles is a challenge anyway. Utah coming off a loss, ending their undefeated season, they're going to be highly motivated.
Might be a little angry.
Might be a little angry. If you've seen those guys during the drive, they can get hyped up. And then, you know, one of the things that Utah, I think, didn't establish in the USC loss was Devontae Booker. He only had 14 carries. He's a guy who he's tied for the second most or third most amount of carries in the game. And so Kyle Whittingham has said, you know, they want to get him more involved. Oregon State struggled against the run in general throughout the year, and particularly against a dual threat guy where he can catch the ball too. Christian McCaffrey's maybe somebody who's similar as far as caliber, and Oregon State obviously struggled against him. It's a 23.5 point line is what I saw. I think Utah exceeds that. I think as well as Oregon State's played, you know, going back to last week in the second half of Washington State, it's going to be a whole new challenge against Utah, a highly motivated Utah team. I'm going to say 41-10 Utah.
Yeah, I like the Utes obviously as well. I think the one positive sign is that the defense has started to get better, and you can look at the Colorado game and say, okay, that's Colorado, but they did shut Washington State out in the second half, even though that game was not close at all going into the second half. But still, I think this defense is at least starting to come around, even with some key injuries. Treston Decoud, obviously, Larry Scott perhaps, but yeah, they haven't seen anybody quite like Devontae Booker, I don't think, yet. You mentioned Christian McCaffrey. They're different styles of runners. Devontae Booker is a really rugged runner. He went for over 200 yards against the Beavers last year, so this might be a chance for him to have a breakout game. And again, there are just so many questions on offense with how much are we going to see Seth Collins? How much are we going to see Nick Mitchell at quarterback? How much are we going to see them on the field together? And are they able to establish a rhythm, which in some instances was better against Colorado, but again, against a very, very good defense in Utah, a really tough defensive line. I'm going to say 35-13. That was my prediction in the paper on Monday. I'll stick with that for now, which tends to be what I do usually on this video.
Yeah, I think the issue, I mean, even if that goes well with, you know, sharing the two quarterbacks and if they're on the same field at the same time, the drive that it was the most effective against Colorado was the opening drive when they had the element of surprise. That's now gone.
Yeah.
You know, kind of the cat's out of the bag there. So we'll see. Maybe they can, you know, execute better, but I still don't think more than 10 points.
Yeah, well, of course, we will have all of your pregame coverage on OregonLive.com and in the Oregonian every single day. And we'll be out in Salt Lake City, so be sure to stick with us for all of that coverage on Halloween evening, Halloween night. It's a 4 p.m. kickoff, so you can still watch the game and go trick-or-treating or do whatever you do after the game.
Whatever it may be.
Exactly. All right, so for Danny Moran, I'm Gina Mizell. Again, Oregon State travels to Utah Saturday afternoon, evening, night in Salt Lake City. We will catch you next time.